Hello, I'm Tag,
And this is Bob.
and you're listening to Bob and Tag Talk. Before we start the show, I'd like to point out that the topics discussed on Bob and Tag Talk are Bob and Tag's personal opinions and comments. We don't intend to cause harm or offense, we are simply providing our personal commentary on subjects that we find interesting.
Today we are going to talk about the developments in Twitter shareholding, and primarily it has been, all in the news, all over the news. It has been said that Elon Musk is taking over 9% shares of Twitter, and how it got started was Elon Musk filed a 13-day filing saying that he is going to be a passive shareholder of Twitter, and eventually he took over 9% of shares, and then the Twitter CEO and the board have invited him as a director, and then he'll be part of the Twitter board, and he'll take forward Twitter in what is the new things that he can bring in, new ideas that he can bring in. So even the Twitter board and the CEOs is very interested in his thoughts and what is the future of Twitter. So they have invited him, and then they'll take suggestions from him as well.
So, being on the board, he can effectively he can affect the changes,
Yes.
or he can influence some of the decisions, and put his suggestions and all
Yes.
of that into the structure and the working of the business, all of that.
Priorities. He can decide on priorities, and the thing is, he owns 9%. He's a largely individual shareholder, and there are a lot of other asset management companies, and then companies like I think BlackRock and other companies who own shares, but not as much as him.
Right.
And then
Not as much as, so they're all companies, but this guy is an
there are mutual
individual.
fund companies, or they are passive investing companies.
But Elon Musk is the only individual who's-
Individual who owns just share. And then Jack Dorsey, the founder, owns only 2%.
Interesting.
So yeah, the Twitter shareholding is a little bit different compared to Google and Facebook. So there is no controlling shares or anything like that. So whoever is the largest shareholder has the control, and depending on depending on the people who are supporting him in the board.
So, what sort of company structure is Twitter? I'm pretty sure I'm comparing it to the Indian standard here, but is it like a private limited sort of a thing, or how do you categorize it? The Twitter.
It's a public company. Twitter is a public company because they have listed their shares in stock market. Anyone can buy their stake.
So if it has a board of directors and everything, there's a name for that structure, right? I'm not
It's a
sure.
corporate structure.
That's all. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay. There's nothing fancy or anything. And then I also wanted to talk about the fun polls he's been conducting on Twitter about what to do at Twitter.
Yeah. So the main thing is about the edit button. So a lot of people have been asking for the edit button. And,
Right, yeah, because people type really fast sometimes, and
a
obvious
lot of
typos
auto
and-
typos and so on. And the thing is, so it looks like edit button has always been there for verified accounts with the blue tick.
Right, the check mark.
Yeah. So now they're planning to introduce, I think Twitter, Elon Musk put out a tweet saying he was planning to introduce something called like a check mark for authenticated users, and then they could actually pay for premium features. I think the amount is probably will be around $3 per month.
Which seems reasonable. And
Seems
I think-
reasonable, but depends on what features you really are getting for.
Right. And I think it's still not in effect. It's just something in discussion.
Yeah,
right?
and all the discussions is happening on Twitter. That's the most fun part. Everyone is participating in it. Yeah.
Speaking of everybody participating in a discussion, Twitter was also one of the first platforms to really
Engage
talk about,
people, yeah.
engage in especially the Will Smith
Chris Rock incident.
that we talked about in the previous episode. I think you were the one who told me that it started off in Twitter where
Yeah.
people were
A lot of people
exchanging-
actually were not watching the Oscars.
Right.
Once they started to notice the tweets that is going on, then suddenly they switched on the Oscars and saw the highlights or the clips and so on.
Yeah. And there was a lot of memes about that also. Like, I would have never known that the Oscars was happening if Will Smith had not slapped Chris Rock. So I think, I think Twitter is a great medium in that sort of communication. But looks like they're also planning to include more imaging tools.
Twitter images and live streaming on Twitter have always been there. It's just that is not the most primary feature that is showcased when you open the app. Probably they may do something with it. There are a lot of opportunities to explore that kind of region where they can actually compete with Instagram.
Oh, was there some sort of a survey or something where this was also discussed? The imaging portion of it was also discussed?
Not really. The only thing that was discussed was Elon had a list of the most followed people on Twitter, which had a lot of political personalities like Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, Narendra Modi, and then some uh, movie celebrities, and then pop stars mainly, Justin Bieber and Taylor Swift. So of all the top 10 members, two members, that is mainly Justin Bieber and Taylor Swift, have not been using Twitter for more than 3 months.
Right.
Have not even made a Twitter post.
Right.
But they do have a lot of followers on Twitter.
Right.
So it is possible that they are primarily using Instagram as their main form of communication, and the people who follow them on Instagram also follow them on Twitter. But their main all these personalities like movie personalities and then pop personalities, they don't prefer using Twitter. They like posting pictures and videos on Instagram.
Yeah, I think, and that's why I think Twitter is thinking of branching out into the
Twitter has to do something about it if they are losing people and then losing the number of users.
Yes. And you were also talking about premium features and all that. So premium, $3?
Yeah, $3 per month. That is the kind of
idea that
they have right now. So anyone who actually pays premium, they'll get no ads, and then they have the ability to get a blue check mark. It is different from the public profile blue tick mark. This is a blue check mark, I suppose.
Okay.
I don't know how that will look, but so that will probably say that you are a trusted user or a premium user. And then I think the idea is that you will actually authenticate people. So there will be less trolls, and then you will clean up the environment where you actually know who is tweeting what.
Okay, that's
actual identity behind the people.
That's something that I did not think about, that establishing that there's an identity behind the people.
Yeah, so I think going forward they'll try to reduce this kind of a noise where people just post anonymous tweets, either trolling or kind of any kind of behavior that affects the people who are following it. And the other feature that was discussed was mainly, it was just a joke probably. You never know. It's like Elon Musk has always been a proponent of Dogecoin. So he's willing to accept Dogecoins as payments for this monthly subscription.
Oh, we'll see if that actually comes into effect.
So that will be a good use case for crypto as well. Actually, Twitter has a lot of potential use cases for cryptocurrency. One of the main thing is, if you heard of the NFTs thing, so there were these Bored Apes NFTs, and then I don't know, some other NFTs which people are actually paying a lot for. The whole point is you can use that NFTs to showcase or to show off. And Twitter is a nice place to show off your actual NFT. The NFT can also be used to authenticate yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think Elon Musk is very interesting to me because mainly because he's not one of those boring rich people. Sorry to say, but he's not one of those boring rich people. At least he does something fun, every now and then. Whether it's for good or for worse, we'll see. So, but I think
it stimulates a discussion. It stimulates an environment where everyone is participating, discussing, and trying to make things, trying to improve things.
Yes. So, what do you think? Where do you think Twitter is headed in the future?
I think there has always been Twitch for games, live streaming, and then you have YouTube Shorts, and then TikTok. So Twitter has a lot of competitors now. So they could pick the best features that they want to actually showcase or implement, and then they could allow it for premium customers. But at the end of the day, it's all about engagement.
Right.
Engagement. The engagements in Twitter are something like this. So live news, live sports events, and then any kind of these Oscars events and things like that, or concerts, or even kind of natural disaster scenarios. And if you remember, there was a Taylor Swift concert. I don't know if it was Taylor Swift concert or some other concert.
There was an incident at a concert or something.
Which was a bombing, and people, I don't know whose concert it was.
I don't know, but
I know it was in
incident,
UK. I remember it was in UK. I don't know which pop personality it was. I don't think it was Lord. I don't know.
I think it was Ariana Grande.
Possible. That is possible.
Okay.
Yes. I know it was one girl who was very popular. So I don't know which one.
Right. Okay. Yes. Boomers.
So these kind of natural disaster scenarios, Twitter is very useful to, because most of these scenarios, the first thing that goes off is your cell tower.
Right.
They actually switch off the cell towers, and it makes communication harder. So it is easier to communicate using Twitter as long as you have some kind of internet. And then the other thing, when it comes to internet, Elon is doing a lot of other things with Starlink as well. So Starlink is like satellite-based internet, so you don't need phone towers as much.
Right.
So that can be a good methods of communication. Twitter really is a good place for everything. It's right in the middle of a lot of interesting things that happen.
Exactly.
And then, but the main challenge is how do they monetize it?
Right. And how do you? I think Elon is like integrating himself into a lot of different factions that will eventually come together and make things a little bit better for the future. So I think Twitter, like you said, even though it's not exactly in the center of things, it's right there in the edge of the center or something like that.
And the one more controversy that has been going on is Babylon Bee. So I think you know more about Babylon Bee.
Yes. So Babylon Bee, for those who don't know, is basically a site, or let's say it's a site or a YouTube channel. They have a presence on YouTube. They're on Instagram. They have other social media. So basically, it's a satire producing site. So it's like they'll make fun of the news or whatever ongoings, in the recent times, and they will publish it as satire. So what they usually do is they publish satire news as news. So sometimes people assume it is true. Sometimes people they know it's satire and they know to laugh at it and to laugh it off. But that is the uniqueness of Babylon Bee, is that sometimes the sarcasm is at such an extent that people don't even know that it's sarcasm. So
sarcasm doesn't travel well in texts.
Yes, that is true.
That's why you need emojis.
Yes, and I think you need those inflections in speech to understand sarcasm sometimes.
True.
So Babylon Bee became popular because a lot of prominent personalities thought that Babylon Bee was actually an actual news site, and some of them believed the actual news that they put out as satire. So I think Elon Musk is somehow connected to Babylon Bee.
The incident was this: Babylon Bee was actually banned from Twitter for a short period of time for a specific article. Probably it was supposed to be satire, and maybe it is not satire, or it's supposed to be making fun. It is not in the right, I don't know what, politically correct or whatever it is.
Got it.
So someone took offense, or someone said it is little, off. So they just thought they would just ban that account. And then that's when Elon Musk got to know that Babylon Bee got banned. And Elon spoke to the owners or the creators of Babylon Bee. And then he also told them that he'll be taking over Twitter, at least to take care of these scenarios where actually Elon's main idea is that free speech should be allowed, irrespective of what end or what spectrum it is about. So that's why all the changes are coming. So I think the premium accounts will actually allow more free speech. At least probably they'll not be banned, they will not be blocked, or their tweets will not be censored or something like that. Maybe that could be one advantage. If you're a paying customer, you have the right to free speech. If you're an anonymous person, you don't have the right to free speech. You have to follow some rules and guidances.
Probably that could work out. I can see that change sort of like being implemented. So I'm very excited to see where Twitter is going. Personally, I'm not someone who is on Twitter. I've not been on Twitter in like a long time. But if all of these changes were actually brought into effect, I'd actually reconsider coming back on Twitter. So
the thing is, the thing about Babylon Bee is you are saying that it's about satire, right? I see it more as a digital form of Jon Stewart's Tonight Show.
Oh, that is very true. No? That's a very close comparison.
And Jon Stewart has a new show as well. The Problem with Jon Stewart. That's also pretty good. And all these kinds of shows, talk shows and everything they do Twitter polls. They do Twitter, engagements to the audiences and all.
So they're nothing but creators in a way. They're just content creators. So
and Twitter actually supports the kind of conversations around these creators, and it gives them a platform, basically like to amplify their voices.
And I think with all of these changes that Elon Musk is supposedly putting into picture, I think Twitter is gonna be could be better, much better.
And the other thing about Twitter is that it doesn't have really anything kind of a switching cost. Like if you take an Apple product, with Apple you generally get this lightning connectors and other connectors. It's not really easy to move data from Apple to something else. So all these are actually considered like a switching cost. It also considered like a moat for a company. It's not easy to move away from the company.
they make it in such a way that it's going to be difficult to move away from the company, where you actually feel the loss when you move away from the company.
A lot of investments needed or something.
Right. But Twitter does not have that.
Twitter does not have that. You can put a tweet that you're moving to this thing, Instagram or something new, and then all your followers probably can move there or something.
Yeah.
It's always possible.
Yeah, I think even if you would lose some of your followers, like from when you're switching from one platform to another, you'll still retain a huge bulk
of it.
Yeah, so I think, like you said, Twitter is
unless you're already paying to Twitter and then you have some premium features, that's where all these new ideas probably could be a good point where Twitter can actually get some monetization.
And I think if they improve all of this, people will actually want to stay, no?
It depends. I mean, the thing is competition. There's a lot of new competition, new social media sites. But the main challenge will always be real-time news. So Twitter is now basically, it literally replaced newspapers.
Yeah.
So the way the news is being consumed. There was actually a good podcast of Jon Stewart talking to Disney's Bob Iger about news. Like how it is difficult to authenticate news these days. And what can these large companies do better to at least authenticate news or trusted news sources. There are a lot of discussions going on. I think Twitter is a good point where probably it can benefit from all those discussions.
Yeah. And I think with all of these changes where you said that when you that you have to establish a proper identity to be considered not a bot. So I think all those features would probably contribute to better news. Maybe. I mean, we're still like talking in terms of like hypotheticals because nothing has been developed. But I guess we'll see
what direction it takes and whether they'll be able to retain their customers and provide a better experience and then probably at least boost their stock price.
Yes. And I think that's a good spot to end it there today. Hey, thanks for listening to Bob and Tag Talk. Please consider following us on our Instagram and Facebook pages. We put out weekly summaries of the topics discussed on the podcast. And if you found this episode informative, please like, share, and subscribe.